What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of First Look. Today we're looking at Ducati's smallest monster. This is Ducati's 2017 Monster 797. So I'm starting to think Ducati is making monsters after the size options you can get at a gelato shop. Gelato is basically Italian ice cream for you guys that don't know. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, if you have a bike model that's doing really well, then by all means make a load of variations for riders that love the bike but have different engine needs. This 797 model is the lowest in the Monster group, fitting in with its bigger engine brothers, the Monster 821 and the Monster 1200, both of which I've actually done first rides on. Even though this is the smallest Monster, it definitely isn't the smallest when it comes to other bikes in its class. Before I drop some comparisons on you, let's take a look at the specs. The Monster 797 is pushing 73 horsepower at 8,250 RPMs, and has a torque value that maxes out at 67 at 5,750 RPMs. It also has a seat height of 31.69 inches and a curb weight of 425 pounds. And that's great and all, but let's take a look at some specs of other bikes in the same class. As far as bikes I'm going to be comparing the Monster to, I've chosen Suzuki's SV650, Yamaha's FZ07, and I've even thrown my trusty Triumph Street Triple RS in there for another high-class naked in the middle engine range. I'm also aware that these aren't every middle engine naked bike out there, but I feel like they cover a good amount of ground. So in our group here we have the SV bringing a horsepower value of 75.1 with a max torque of 47. The FZ's horsepower is sitting at 67.2 with its torque coming in at 46.4. And finally we have the Street knocking the horsepower out of the damn park at 121 with a torque value of 77. It's also important that we make clear the displacement values of all the bikes we have. We have the Monster coming in at 803 cc's. We've got 645 for the SV, the FZ is at 689, and the Street is coming in at 765. Based on these numbers, you can see the Monster sits around the middle for horsepower, but really brings the power when it comes to the torque, beating out both the SV and the FZ. What I would personally expect is a really punchy engine that will get up to speed quickly. I've personally said many times, horsepower equals speed, but torque equals acceleration, and I don't know about you guys, but of those two, acceleration is what puts a smile on my face. On the subject of power, I will say I'm really interested in how the power delivery will be on this bike. When I rode the 821, I remember feeling like it was really underpowered unless you were riding the absolute shit out of it, at which point you could really start feeling the engine come to life. So during the first ride, I'm definitely going to be looking to see if we get the same engine characteristics from this Monster as well. Another note about this engine is it's actually the same L-twin Desmogorno air-cooled engine found in Ducati's Scrambler bikes. To be honest, I love the way the Scrambler bikes look, but when it comes to that engine, it's honestly been a little lackluster for me personally. I'm hoping that they've tuned it differently for the Monster 797, but we'll have to wait for the first ride to actually find out. One thing about this Monster that I am super excited for is the price, and no, not because of how expensive it is. Well, I mean, comparatively, it isn't the cheapest of the bunch, but what it is less than $10,000. It's actually a couple of grand more than a freaking SV650. Here are how the prices break down. The Monster 797's MSRP is $9,395. Comparatively, the SV is $7,499. The FZ is also $7,499. And my beautiful Street Triple is coming in with the wallet-breaking $12,500, which is worth every penny, I may add, but that's for another video. This means that you can get a truly iconic Ducati motorcycle that looks extremely similar to the larger ones for less than 10 grand, and I personally think that's a great move on Ducati's part. I mean, check out this side-by-side of all the Monsters. The main area you can even see a difference is at the top of the forks, we see a little amount of blank space on the Monster 797, where in the same area it's used on both the 821 and the 1200. Other than that tiny detail, all these monsters look very similar. This is the same mentality that the Japanese guys are using when making their 300s look like larger bikes. People that buy smaller bikes don't want it to be obvious that they're riding a smaller engine motorcycle than the guys on their 600s and their 1000s, and I personally love that. This also brings the price point of getting into the Ducati family of motorcycles much more attainable to those that may have previously not been able to afford it. Other than the Scrambler 62, this is Ducati's lowest priced bike, and if I had to choose between those two as an entry point into the Ducati space, there would be no question which I would pick. Like, hands down, don't you dare ask me that question. Of course it's going to be the Monster. I will give you this, I am slightly biased towards the Monster line at the moment, with just finishing Season 1 of Wreck Bike Rebuild Series and seeing how nice a Monster can look. Let's just say I'm a bit of a fan of the aesthetics. Speaking of the aesthetics, this bike is going to come with 3 options. It's got a smoked out version, a Ducati red version with a red frame, and my personal favorite, it has a white with red frame and it has red wheels with it. I absolutely love that freaking white one. Reading up on this bike, I will say I'm a little worried about the whole air-cooled engine thing. It could be that I live in a large city, so having an air-cooled motorcycle seems like a nightmare, but when I go for a ride, very often I get stuck at red lights, and during the summer, it already gets hot here, so I couldn't imagine how hot you would get when riding an air-cooled bike. This is definitely something I'm going to be looking for when I do my first ride, but for now, we'll just keep it on the watch list. I am happy to see that Ducati, even with getting the price point under 10 grand, kept the nice additions like Brembo brakes and ABS. Having upgrades like that alone could be a big enough factor to have someone choose the Monster over its lower cost counterparts. The LCD instrument panel on this bike looks pretty similar to the other Ducati Monsters that I've seen, which is fine. I feel like it goes with the aesthetic anyway. Overall, guys, I'm really excited to get to ride this thing. I personally get more excited about lower cost option bikes because I think it's more challenging than the bigger bikes when it comes to manufacturers creating them. It's like a battle to see how much you can put into the bike while keeping it under a certain price point. Bikes in this range are also more affordable for the normal person as opposed to a $26,000 Panigale 1299S. I'll wait until I do a first ride on this bike, but based on what I've seen, I feel like Ducati might be making a really good move bringing their very popular Monster line down to the middleweight class and making it affordable for a ton of people. If you guys are interested to see what I thought about the bike when I did my first ride, click here to check out that video. Once that video is published, you'll be able to check it out and see how I ended up thinking about the bike after riding it. My opinion's fine and all, but I am really curious what you guys think about the small CC Monster. Is 9K still too much to even consider it over the FZ07? Or are you thinking Ducati's on the right track? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And guys, I'm Chase. This has been a first look at the 2017 Ducati Monster 797. If you guys enjoyed this video, clicking that like button would be awesome of you. You guys ride safe, and I'll see you on the next one. Later.